raw going through my head and my heart right now. And yes, I'm driving, and yes, I'm safe. I am holding the phone with one hand, and I'm a good driver, and I'm paying attention. So, but I just needed to get this out. This is the first time in a very, very long time, probably months, that I've gotten dressed up and taken myself on a little date. I'm going to a craft fair just to walk around and peruse and get out and do something nice for myself. And I got new gold jewelry and a dress, and I'm just embracing myself. But I'm just gonna kind of get right into it. I feel really emotional and raw and tender, and I feel I'm in kind of the thick of it right now. But this is an important message, perhaps for the people who are crying in bed alone right now, grieving, knocked out because of the emotional pain that they're in, feeling doubts running through their head, feeling hopeless, feeling at rock bottom, feeling grief. And I wanted to show up here in my raw state as it starts to rain and show you that I am here with you, and I'm gonna open my heart to you to show you that you are courageous, you are bold, you are brave, you are strong, you are smart, you are intelligent, and whatever decision you've had to make for yourself that feels gut-wrenching, but it's the right thing for you to do, I want you to know that I see you and I am with you. I am standing with you. When I had nobody in my life, no friends, no family who actually was able to emotionally support me, I found a lot of support on YouTube through videos like this, where people would show up and offer validation and recognition for some of the hardest things that I've ever had to go through. And specifically, what's hardest for me right now, one of the things is feeling estranged from my family and from people that I love. And even though they have emotionally manipulative, abusive tendencies, if you were born into a family who has those tendencies, narcissistic tendencies, exploitative, emotionally exploitative, psychologically, spiritually, like exploitative tendencies, then you understand how it feels like such an internal double bind when you are biologically attached to people who mistreat you. And then you learn to accept that from relationships around you. And maybe you go through life never having had this sense of unconditional loyalty and safety. Like, those things don't go hand in hand. I know for me, this is a very sad, hard truth, and I know that relationships come and go all the time. But for the majority of my close relationships, a lot of them have ended with a sense of betrayal. I've gone through that a lot. And this video is not for advice giving. I'm not putting myself out here so you can shame me or spew some neo-spiritual narrative at me and tell me what I'm doing wrong, or give me some blanket advice that doesn't acknowledge the disgusting truth wired a certain way. So it takes sometimes every goddamn fiber in your being to do what's right by yourself. It takes going through a certain kind of experience of pain enough times for you to finally decide that the pain of grieving living people and distancing yourself, estranging yourself from people who are still alive, and allowing the hope that one day your family, your mother, your aunt, your siblings, your friends, one day the people that you care about and cherish the most and crave the love from the most, one day they will acknowledge your pain. One day they will be able to sit with you and hold you and let you cry into their shoulder without needing to give you advice or needing to tell you how to fix it or change it. Like, being in this place, which is where I am, means allowing that hope to die. And it's really tricky to grieve a living person. It's not something that most people really understand, because it feels like it's real grief. The people that I love, my family, my friend, like unavailable people who have betrayed me, I'm not going to go chasing them. I'm not going to go asking them to perform, to show up a certain way. Like, I did that years ago. It didn't work. And, you know, I've learned from all of this to just take people at face value. And I've also learned the rarity of a genuine connection. You know, I think that love and connection, one of the most important things to look out for is that it's genuine. It's not a performance. It's natural. You're not loving someone or reaching out to them because you feel obliged. And I used to behave that way. I used to put so much more effort than I really had into my close relationships. And on one hand, I'm a very devoted, committed person, and I like to go above and beyond. I like to pour, I like to give everything. And I think that especially because I didn't have any family to share that pouring exchange of love ever, I was devoid of it for my whole life, and it led me into situations and relationships where I was exploited, I was abused, because that was my first impression. I mean, that was what my psychosomatic makeup mapped as normal. And that's what my nervous system came to know as familiar. That's the internal GPS that this deep hurt part of my subconscious used to find relationships, to find these things. And now I realize that I seem a little flat with the way that I'm talking, because in my voice there's a mixture of, like, not quite shock, but almost like aftershock. Like when something so intense happens and you're just like, wow, like, I can't believe that this is real. It's so big that it's hard to even feel or process what to feel, because it is devastating. But it's like when you realize that your own mother, the archetype, the person that is biologically designed to give her life and her body to her children, when you don't get that as a child, it's the implications of your quality of life and your subconscious, the ideas, the beliefs that you come up against constantly subconsciously are pains that, unless you directly experience them, you will never understand what it feels like. And it feels like every cell in your body this abusive person, you're gonna die. If you speak the truth, you are going to get hurt because someone's gonna take it and weaponize it against you. This stuff happened to me, and this stuff probably happened to you. If this video is for you, if you're also someone who had to make the choice to estrange yourself, and maybe not, estrange is kind of an intense word, but at least distance yourself for now while you need to protect yourself. These are probably thoughts that you have, but these are thoughts that people like me live with on a daily basis, and they are not me. They are not who I am. I recognize myself, my value, my worth, and it has been stunted. It's been injured, and that's why I need to convince myself that I am worthy by dragging myself out of bed. Not exactly. I mean, I try to be kind to myself and gentle, but it's like one way that I can push this narrative from inside of myself that I am worthy and I am so full of love and so loving and so amazing and all these things that I never got reflected back to me from my own family, and that were made into even worse injuries by the friends who ghosted me when I was sick, or who just watched my Instagram stories when I was bedridden and debilitated and didn't check in on me, didn't ask how I was doing. That's the kind of thing that a very deep subconscious part of my brain, or wounded child, would constantly come up against and question, is this normal? But the fact is that it's not normal. And the most sad thing about all of this is that I don't have an experience or a reference point for what a normal, unconditionally loving relationship looks like. I don't have that in my life. I don't have that like deep in my bones. I believe that I do have that in some form, because I'll tell you why. When I was a child, I dreamed of the kind of relationship, the kind of connections that I want, and my soul is so at odds with this reality of accepting, which I'm not anymore. I'm grieving. I'm letting it all go right now, finally, like more than I ever have. Kind of lost my train of thought. But yeah, somewhere in my spirit, throughout everything I've ever been through and lost, there is a part of me that still dreams and still has faith and still longs so deeply for the types of soulful relationships that I believe in, and specifically romance. And you know what else is kind of sad? I feel ashamed and afraid to even say that I long for a romantic connection that fills in the voids that were marked by the people who have abused me and neglected me, because when I have been honest about that in the past, in spaces where people were focused on reclaiming sovereignty, reclaiming personal power, healing, loving, like, kind of like neo-spiritual as well, those people, like, the amount of invalidation and dismissal of my genuine longing for God-ordained marriage, which is a very normal human thing, by the way. Like, we're designed to be monogamous creatures, and I'm not saying that if you're polyamorous you're wrong, but human beings are designed to mate and to reproduce and to have monogamous relationships. And sure, there's polyamorous people too, but I'm talking about my experience, not that. And again, I'm not saying that you're wrong if you want to make love with multiple people, whatever. That's not my path. I'm not interested in that. But part of being human means that I am wired to be monogamous. We are wired to be monogamous, many of us. And we are wired to long for a mate. And people talk about the love of God and how God-ordained marriages are relationships, that the people in the relationships imbibe these divine, godly qualities, unconditional love, and it's natural, it flows, it's committed, it's sacred, it's protected, it's beautiful, it is literally a fairy tale. And when this is what I have in my heart, I have never lost faith that I will find the love that I crave, that I long for, and I hope to transmit this truth to people who also feel like, maybe you've been ashamed and abused, and you felt wronged for craving love. There's nothing shameful or wrong about craving love. And there's this dumb argument that's used as a weapon against people who speak openly about their desire for a fairy tale love. And it says, well, you can't rely on one person to meet all your needs. You can't rely on your partner to be everything to you. Nobody can be that. But I don't believe that. I don't. Maybe you can't. Maybe the person talking to me can't. But, I honestly think that God would not have put that exact desire in my heart to have all of my needs met. How far out is that to want your needs to be met? How far out is that to think that somebody is so compatible with you that they're perfect for you? How far out is that to believe that God has not only a romantic partner but friends and a community for you who are capable of meeting you at your depth, fulfilling your emotional needs, making you feel safe, making you feel validated? How far out is that for real? And I think I feel sad for the people who argue against it, because what that shows me is that they lost faith at some point. They believed the fear and the lies that was fed to them a long time ago by people who had the light knocked out of them by somebody abusive and never turned it back on, never found it again, never found God, never found the truth of their soul. And so I wanted to be transparent with you, to show up, to stand here and show you the things that society and my abusive family and my abusive ex-friends and exploitative ex-communities and healing spaces and institutions and the person who tried to traffic me and the relationships, the romantic partners who exploited me, who manipulated me, who raped me, who abused me, who took advantage of me, who wronged me, and then when I became enraged due to their neglect and harm, it was weaponized against me, and I was made to look like the bad person, the wrong person, over and over, and dealing with this in isolation with nobody with their head cap screwed on to stand by my side and advocate for me and validate me and show me that I'm not wrong and that it's okay, and that actually the person abusing me is wrong, and they deserve to be blasted, they deserve to be exposed, they deserve to be called out. But I didn't always do that when I needed it most, when I needed somebody to do it for me most. And, not to mention Utah, the troubled teen industry. I was legally abducted and sent to a cult. If you Google the definition of cult, Havenwood Academy, the place that I was sent to, which is also on Paris Hilton's Breaking Code Silence website, which exposes corrupt, troubled teen industries. It's also listed on there, and it's been flagged for fraud. They actually committed insurance fraud. They poisoned my body. They force-fed you. They took away your freedoms. They held your basic human freedoms against you. And that happened in an institution, okay? So it's one thing to be abused and neglected in a singular relationship. It's one thing to be like a part of a safe family and then go on a date or go get into a relationship and the person becomes abusive, but you have a support system who doesn't let that shit fly. And it's another thing to be institutionally abused, where you are such a fucking bright, you are such a like God-touched, God-blessed child of God, child of light, bright, luminous soul, that all of these like dark, evil people around you just want to prey on you and exploit you and take advantage of you because you're so literally the love and the light of God is pouring out of your soul. And your own mother, who has unresolved insecurities from her own childhood, uses that against you to control you and steals your childhood from you, robs you of your sense of divinity, of your sense of confidence, uses everything against you, looks at you like you're some object to shine and to be shown off, rather than a person who deserves care and love. And having that happen in your own household, where no other family or no other people are there to look out for you and protect you. You're a vulnerable child, you're a sensitive child, and nobody was there ever to protect you, to call out what was wrong. And when you showed signs, however subtle they may have been, in your public school, at your friend's house, on play dates, of that you're experiencing neglect, no one fucking paid attention to them. No one saw the way that you averted a gaze. No one saw the way that your whole body would just get tense and tight when they tried to talk to you. Nobody would recognize how you never spoke up for what you wanted or needed because you were trained to deny yourself. Nobody saw the silent war that was happening inside of you because you had a need and you were told to neglect it, or you were ignored, or whatever it was. You became trained to hide it. And so people who did not have the experience or the depth that you have, to perceive what you're living in that moment, nobody has that trained eye. So they missed it. And I think that this is a really important point. This is something that school systems, teachers, public institutions should educate themselves on, which is signs of abuse, so they can do something to protect those children. And this requires a certain level of emotional intelligence and perceptivity. But you know what? If we have teachers in schools who are responsible for growing vulnerable children for 40-50% of every year of their lives, for the first quarter of their lives, whatever it is, the first 20% of their life, like, as a global family, we need to look out for each other, and we need to understand that this is real and this is happening. And I don't blame anyone for not showing up, but I do need to call this out, because my quality of life and my sense of safety, my health, my physical health, my emotional health, all of these things, due to the neglect that I grew up in, I was overlooked. And I'm not the only person. I survived. I found healers. I found people. I found communities. I found supportive relationships that helped me continue to step up the ladder of my life and grow. But I'm calling this out because people need to institutionally, not even on an institutional level, but on the level of, like, humanity is an institution, and the values that people prioritize need to change in some of these spaces to prevent the kind of suffering in the world that I went through and other people went through and are still silent and ashamed to admit, to share, to speak up about. Because when they speak up about these things, they're just shamed into silence again. And this video is me breaking that silence, breaking that shame. And I know that some people still won't get this, and that's okay, because I see myself clearly, and I am here to reflect that back to the people who are also me, in a sense. And there was something else I wanted to say, but I can't remember it at this time. But I was going on about institutional abuse, and how it's one thing to have a safe family or safe support system, and then to go through abuse and to come back and to feel the support of people all around you. And it's another thing to go through routine systemic abuse, whether it's from your family, from your church, from your school, from your friend group, from your cult in Utah, your institution, even from your medical doctor, medical gaslighting, from your therapist, from whoever. And overcoming systemic abuse, systemic manipulation, systemic gaslighting, that's what I'm doing right now. And the pain, the leftover pain from that is so real that it really creates this echo in my cells that have learned to normalize this, that if we speak up, we're going to die. And this isn't even exclusive to my lifetime. This is like a wound that is kind of universal. Witches, herbalists, healers, people who were in tune with the magic healing powers of plants and the earth, at one point they were burned alive. They were systemically abused, and their family, their societies, communities would turn against them and publicly shame and humiliate and burn them. Same thing. Once upon a time, if you were Jewish, that meant, if that was known, that cost your life. And I am Jewish as well, so I feel I carry that residual ancestral wounding. Once upon a time, if you were observant and you had a telescope and you observed that the solar system was solar-centric, heliocentric, that cost your life. Do you remember Galileo? I always think about him. He literally observed geometry in space, and because he observed what was right in front of his eyes, he was killed for it. Because the truth was too big for these small-minded people to assimilate to. And the truth of systemic abuse, trafficking, narcissism, like clinical narcissism, borderline abuse, is still too big for people to systemically accept. And people like me and people like you are still suffering for it, and that's not fucking fair. So I'm gonna be a voice to stand in the fire, to speak my truth, because we deserve better. We deserve support. We deserve acknowledgement. We deserve to feel powerful. We deserve to recognize our inner holiness through all of the fucking lies that our family, that our communities, that our school systems, that our education systems, that our medical systems, all these systems tried to tell us otherwise. And this goes beyond abuse, just in the family, a narcissistic mother. This, I'm talking about something deeper. And yeah, it's systemic neglect, systemic lack of empathy, sensitivity, connection with nature, connection with God. People are so consumed with survival. We live in a world where money and survival is the number one priority. So people are literally fucking pitted against each other, instead of recognizing that my abundance is your abundance. God's green earth is bountiful, and there is more than enough to go around. But as a society, a Western society, as I'm driving through this fucking urban sprawl which in my opinion it's disgusting to me. It jars my nervous system. I hate being here, but I'm only here temporarily because I'm healing and I have access to the healthcare that I need here. So that's why I'm here. So like I can accept it, but I recognize that it's really designed to make people feel like resources are spread thin, because human beings were designed as tribal people. Like, we're animals. We are designed to help one another. We're designed to contribute our unique skills and values to one another, and to sustain a community. Especially in America, especially in the United States, there's communities like that few and far between, and you know, I've connected with some of them, but you know, we've been separated from these values. So I really just want to call these things out. I know I'm not the only one who recognizes this, who sees it, and it has a real effect, and I am living the real effect. I'm brave enough to feel the effect of, you know, broken society, broken world, broken humanity in all these different ways, so that I can do something about it, so that I can create a different legacy for my future children, for my future spouse, for my future community, my future friends. I want to love them. I want to be here for them. I want to flourish with them in ways that, you know, in ways that we all necessarily couldn't access in the world at large before, you know. So I could go on about this forever, but I just pulled up, so I'm gonna end this for now. I really hope that this gave you a boost of validation and comfort and confirmation, and reinforced the truths that you already know about yourself, and maybe you've been holding them alone. I've been holding them alone, but I'm putting them out so that I can no longer hold them alone. So yeah. Okay, my friends, I send you lots of love. Talk soon.